The Girl from Oto, Book 1, Chapter 8, Summer 2014, Oxford, England, Zari. The cobblestones on the broad courtyard fanned out before Zari like rows of crooked teeth, snagging the wheels of her suitcase with their ancient pocks and fissures. She followed Vanessa through a broad oak door into a corridor where a whisper of cool air offered respite from the heat. Removing her sunglasses, she sensed movement in the shadows ahead. An elderly man stumped out of the gloom, the soles of his polished loafers slapping gently against the stone floor. "Good afternoon," Vanessa said, inclining her head toward the man in a polite nod. Her black and white striped jersey dress and wine-colored platform wedges looked wildly out of place in the medieval setting. "Good afternoon, Miss Conlon." His tone implied that this was, in fact, an afternoon from hell. Zari aimed a broad grin in his direction, hoping to startle him into a smile. Instead, his disapproving expression was replaced by a look of befuddled panic. Blearily, she recalled the chocolate bar she had consumed on the bus from the airport to Oxford. "Do I have something on my face?" she asked Vanessa, touching her fingers to her chin and examining them. "Just the wrong set of chromosomes." Vanessa threw a glance back over her shoulder. "He's one of the dinosaurs. Spends most of his time drinking tea and reading newspapers in the Fellows' Lounge. He was on my hiring committee, so it's possible that he likes my work. But the more likely story is he was bullied into recommending me by a quota-wielding administrator." She waved Zari through a door and pointed up a curving staircase. "I booked you and Aggie into the last available double. It's been refurbished with new furniture and mattresses. Though I must warn you, we've had a few claims of ghost sightings in that room." Zari slipped the strap of her messenger bag over her shoulder and heaved her suitcase up the slippery stairs one riser at a time. "Ghosts? Good. I'd love to meet one in person. I spend most of my work life chasing them." Vanessa sorted through keys on the lanyard around her neck and unlocked a door at the head of the stairs. "You've come to the right place, then." The room was an unassuming space painted white, filled with basic pine furniture. Zari deposited her suitcase at the foot of one of the twin beds, unable to contain a tremendous yawn. "The only way to fight off jet lag is to stay in motion until the natives go to bed." Vanessa opened the windows one by one. "If you fall asleep now, you'll be knackered tomorrow." In the adjoining bathroom, Zari splashed her face with cold water. She blotted her skin with a towel and appraised herself in the mirror. Dark shadows lay under her eyes, and her skin had the yellowish-green tinge that it took on when she went too long without sleep. "Ugh," she thought. "Maybe that poor man was scared of me." She pulled her mass of brown curls into a knot, swabbed her face with powder, and rummaged in her toiletries kit for a stick of deodorant. Then she flicked off the light. There was only so much damage control to be done after nearly 24 hours of travel. "Can we visit the painting?" she asked. "That should keep me awake." Vanessa jangled her keys. "You're in luck. I've been granted clearance to our high-security underground archives." Vanessa led Zari down a flight of dimly lit stairs to a basement that was scented with the faint aromas of damp stone and stale tobacco. Her long, silver-streaked dark hair twitched back and forth as she walked. "High-security archives?" Zari asked. "It smells more like a smoker's lounge down here." "Ha! The women's toilets used to be down here, back when all the upstairs loos were men only. No, what you're smelling is the result of late-night shenanigans involving cigars and whiskey, I'd imagine." They cut through a narrow hallway. Vanessa unlocked a door and pressed a light switch. The walls of the small room were lined with metal shelving and rows of shallow drawers. After consulting a note on her mobile phone, Vanessa tugged a drawer open, slid out a rectangular box not much bigger than Zari's suitcase, and placed it on a metal table. With 2 sharp clicks, she unclasped the latches and opened the cover. The painting was small, its decoratively carved wooden frame riddled with scratch marks and gouges. The woman in the portrait, shown from the waist up, was pale and fine-boned. Her dark auburn hair was mostly hidden under a pearl-encrusted cap. Her black dress was nipped in at the waist, her neck concealed by a ruffled Elizabethan collar. One eyebrow was slightly raised. There was a curl to her lips that could either be interpreted as a smile or a sneer. Zari couldn't decide which. It was this ambivalence, she realized, that made her eye want to linger on the woman's face. "I like her," Zari said. "Do you? I don't think she likes us." "Can you blame her for looking grumpy with that corset on?" Zari put her mobile on flashlight mode and leaned in. Close up, the surface of the painting was dull, and the colors swirled together in a muddled haze. "Poor thing's been in a box for a year awaiting restoration, ever since that flap about her origins." Vanessa slipped on her reading glasses and bent over the painting. She glanced back up at Zari. "There's an empty spot on a wall upstairs that's been missing her terribly. Banished to the basement over a few letters. It doesn't seem right." "You know the whole story, then?" Vanessa nodded. "I don't know what the restoration will prove." Zari regarded the painting again. "But this certainly looks like the work of Cornelia Vanderzee. Too bad she didn't sign it." "She only signed a few of her paintings." Zari ran through the facts in her mind. Until last year, the painting was believed to be the work of Flemish artist Cornelia Vanderzee, its subject a French noblewoman named Marie de Béart, who lived in the early 1500s. But a batch of ancient letters tucked away in a Parisian attic resurfaced and put Marie de Béart's birth date much later than had been assumed. According to those letters, she would have been a little girl at the time Cornelia Vanderzee painted this. The dates just didn't add up. "If this isn't Marie de Béart, who is she?" asked Vanessa. Zari shrugged. "I'm not ruling out the possibility that she is, in fact, Marie de Béart. The writer of these letters may have been misinformed about the date of her birth. 2 numbers might have been transposed by accident. The letters may have referred to another child altogether." "Ah! Discounting a primary source. You're a bold one." Vanessa pulled her glasses off and eyed Zari. She was a woman of quick, bird-like movements. When she distilled her energy into a focused gaze, it was almost unbearably intense. "It's a leap of faith to take any one source as gospel," Zari said firmly. "History is not that simple." "Magna Carta, then," Vanessa said. "A load of rubbish?" "I'm not suggesting we take snippers to the whole fabric of civil society. What I'm saying is, we have to work with an unreliable archive. It's full of holes." "You're talking to an Irishwoman. I know all about silence stories." The copper-haired woman stared up at them from her wooden box. There was a trace of defiance in her eyes. She seemed tense, ready to spring. "From my perspective, it doesn't matter who this woman is unless her identity proves that Cornelia Vanderzee painted the portrait," Zari said. "There are only 17 Vanderzee paintings left in the world, as far as anyone knows. If this one is dismissed, we're down to 16. "Here's hoping for your sake that it proves to be a Vanderzee, then," said Vanessa. "Solving a centuries-old mystery would be quite a career boost." Again, those dark eyes searched Zari's face. "I can't claim credit for anything the art conservator discovers. The restoration of paintings is a totally foreign world to me. All I can say with certainty looking at the painting now is that I understand why it's been attributed to Vanderzee." Zari could have spent another hour with the portrait, but Vanessa was eager to escape the stale air of the basement. Back above ground, they skirted the edge of the commons, passed through a long corridor, and entered a high-ceilinged room where rows of polished wooden tables fitted with brass reading lamps stretched out before them. An oversized painting of a Tudor-era woman in a fur-trimmed dress hung on a stone wall. It was surrounded by a dozen or so oil portraits of red-cheeked men garbed in riding boots, white breeches, and military jackets. Zari's eyes widened. A rose among thorns. Vanessa smiled. She's Catherine of Aragon, Henry VIII's first wife, back in her glory days before Anne Boleyn bewitched her husband. What a mess marrying him turned out to be, Zari said. At least Henry just divorced her. Anne wasn't so lucky. Chopping off his wife's heads proved so much more efficient than divorce. Zari contemplated the ruddy male faces staring down at them. Are those her bodyguards? They're the alumni of Fontbroke College, Vanessa explained. 4 centuries of them, enjoying immortality on these hallowed walls. What's the saying? Ars longa, vita brevis. Life is short, but art lasts. Where are the portraits of women alumni? Fontbroke College has existed for 5 centuries. Most of that time, it was entirely a world of men. The college only started hiring women faculty and accepting female students 50 years ago. You see why it's so important that our girl in the basement is freed from her box. There was something new in Vanessa's tone, a weariness perhaps. Zari glanced at her sideways. Sorrow had crept over Vanessa's face, pulling her mouth down at the corners, muting the brightness of her eyes. Zari quickly looked away, feeling like an intruder. It was startling to see a hint of vulnerability lurking under Vanessa's breezy confidence. A portrait of a woman, painted by a woman, Zari said after a moment. That's rare in itself for the era, and even more so here. No wonder you want her back on the wall. Zari lay in bed past midnight, staring into the darkness, her exhausted body and wired mind locked in a battle of wills. Jet lag always played out like this. Every molecule of her body was leached of energy, yet her mind flexed and hummed with stream of consciousness mania. Combing through memories, she replayed her departure the previous morning from California. She and her mother had hurtled down Highway 101 in the ancient Toyota truck, Tibetan prayer flags flapping crazily in the cab behind them, and the faint aroma of overripe banana emanating from somewhere under their feet. The sky was just beginning to lighten, and the Golden Gate Bridge was empty of tourists. Look, Zari, her mother said in delight. No fog this morning. The sun is blessing your journey. Zari stared groggily out the window toward the east. The sun shimmered above the undulating hills across the bay, scoring the water with pinpoints of silvery light. What did Gus and I used to call that? When the sunlight hits the bay? Water fire? Her mother laughed. Yes, you were such creative little spirits. For a moment, as she contemplated the thousands of miles of land and sea that separated her from home, Zari's eyes welled with tears. She felt fragile, like thin glass about to crack. What was she doing in England? Who did she think she was, stumbling around Oxford with her American accent? She couldn't even wash her hair properly. She had washed it with conditioner by mistake and then used all of her shampoo to get the conditioner out. Now she lay with her hair in a loose, wet tangle on the pillow beside her, too exhausted to comb it. How could someone this inept possibly imagine herself traveling all over Europe conducting postdoctoral research? She forced herself to do a round of deep breathing. In for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, out for 4 counts. Her racing thoughts eased. Self-flagellation is a classic sleep deprivation move, she reminded herself. Don't buy into it. Just sleep. She shut her eyes and counted backward from 100, just as her mother had taught her. Counting sheep never worked. Where did that even come from? It seemed like a lot of effort, imagining a sheep, ticking it off, conjuring up another, ticking that one off. It was so much easier to just count numbers. 100, 99, 98, 97, 96. Before she reached 50, she was asleep.